I'm the director of the museum here. Before I introduce them, I just want to explain the significance of this room. Many people who walk in this room and who live in this town don't understand why this room and why this museum is where it is. This is where the Civil War veterans from Rockville met from 1890 to 1929. This was their room. In 1896, they had the foresight to actually start asking each other to start donating their wartime relics. And that is where our collection began. You'll see a lot of relics here that are really, really local. That's because the veterans themselves are the ones who donated to our museum. A couple of things just really quick. These are the guys. This is a picture of their first group photo, 1885. And you can see the one over there, I mentioned 1898. They were not very photogenic. That picture right there took 3 years for them to label it. Thanks Kim Samuel Ellis, who actually lived in Glastonbury at the time, who actually pushed them to label it. And this is our hall right here, about 1913. This is how the veterans would have seen it. So as you can see, not much has changed. So that's one of the things that we here we pride on. And we like to have programs like the field musicians to help kind of keep that mission alive that the veterans themselves gave us, the Sons Union veterans. You know, they're supposed to carry their legacy on. And a little side note, your GR Hall in Manchester still exists today. Does anybody know where it is? I told some people where it was. It's Cheney Hall. They met in Cheney Hall. I have not been really in-depth in it, but that is where the Civil War veterans of Manchester met for many years after the war, and possibly where some of their collections still exist. So, if you want to join the Sons Union veterans, we're always looking for new people. You just have to be either interested in the Civil War, willing to carry the mission on, or be actually a descendant of an honored history or Union soldier. No Confederates allowed. Without further ado, this is Doug Quigley on fife, and Peter Stevens on snare drum. They're both very good friends of ours here at the museum, and we just give them your attention.
Welcome. Okay. What we are going to do this afternoon is we're going to basically cover 3 parts of what fife and drum music and field music was, how it was used and played in the Civil War. The first part we'll talk about is how they were used actually in camp, and how the traditions go actually back to the mid to early 1700s in Europe. And the British, mostly British, French, Spanish, Dutch, brought these traditions over with them. Then what we'll do is we'll talk about we'll talk about the instruments, where they come from. Then we'll play some music and give you a demonstration on how some of the music was played and what the troops did and how they responded to the music. And then the last thing we'll do is invite you to come up to the table, the little display table we have, and we'll explain anything that you have questions on, either to us, the instruments, the music we play, or to what we have on the display table. So, I guess Doug will start. He'll introduce the fife and talk a little bit about the history of the fife and what kind of instrument it is.
Good afternoon. The fife is a interesting instrument, and it's one that you don't come in common with too often. It's not played in high school bands. It's not played in orchestras. So a lot of times when we present these fifes in public, it's oh, that's a flute. Everybody knows a flute. It's a flute. It's similar to a flute. It's related to a flute, but it's not. It's a fife. Its origins go way back. I mean, there was flutes in Egypt and Rome. The Europeans went to the Middle East for the Crusades. They brought back with them these flutes that were played in the Middle East. They tended to shorten them, and they were very applied for military use. I think in 1515 was the first reference in Switzerland to the fife and drum being played together. As you heard when we opened up, it's a simple cylinder transverse instrument, meaning you play over. You don't play directly into it, almost like on a soda bottle, you know. That's the sound it's got from the air going by it. It simply has 6 holes. a mouth oval, and there's a cork inside that directs all the air out one side. And it's by covering or uncovering these 6 holes, you get your sound. The lowest range is very soft. And that's what you hear with a recorder or something. Because of the use of the fife, it was designed to be played outside. It was designed as a military instrument and wanted to be, the sound needed to carry far. So you very seldom use that lower range. The next middle range and the upper one is what was mostly used. By then you have every dog in the neighborhood running toward you. But, so it's not appropriate to be played inside. You wouldn't play it as parlor music with a piano or with a flute, you know, in the evenings. But boy, you get out of the parade field and you get some drums and you start playing it, it can be heard for probably a quarter mile on a clear day, maybe even a half mile away. So that was very important for the sound to be able to carry outside as it was applied to the military use. The Swiss used it, it then migrated to France and England and was used in their armies for a period of time. Then it kind of disappeared and it reappeared in the mid-1700s. And by that time, England, which was one of the greatest powers in the world, they had fifers and drummers as part of the regular military units. They would be a fifer and a drummer usually assigned each company, and they would perform the duties of the musicians, and that continued right through the Civil War, and we'll talk about that a little bit after too. And of course, the Americans, being a British tradition, we picked up that tradition. So the American Revolution, when the Continental Army was formed, they based